marketplace and beyond, the ability to build and nurture and steward strategic relationships is no longer optional. It is essential. And these relationships are not transactional or opportunistic. They are intentional connections which are built on trust, shared values, mutual growth, and long-term impact. To do us the honors for today's presentation is a man I met 2 years ago in Burundi at an ILF conference, leadership conference. I mean, he made so much impact. We connected over there. We exchanged contacts. It's all part of the strategic relationships. So he's called Mr. Tito Andres Ramos. He's from Bolivia, but he speaks impeccable English. You might think that he's an American. He's an entrepreneur, co-founder of Touch Leadership and Coaching, and executive director of ILF Latin America. For more than 10 years, Tito's work in leadership development, organizational culture, and strategic growth has reached leaders and organizations across the Americas. In today's session, he will share insights on how leaders can intentionally build strategic relationships that strengthen their influence and expand their impact and align their connections with their calling and purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our friend, our brother, Tito. Tito, take over. Unmute yourself and you can share your screen.
Thank you so much, dear Percy. And it's a privilege for me to be here this morning for Bolivia. And I know that it's in the afternoon for you. And I'm so honored and also blessed to be here and to be part of this presentation that I believe it's one of the key areas for us leaders in the marketplace. And I think it's going to be revolutionary for our thought, for our mindset. And I pray that God is using this time in order for us to be strategic leaders wherever he put us. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. And again, while I do this, I want to thank you for being here and also for giving me the opportunity to share this presentation. So let me start real quick by welcoming everyone and again addressing that this is a true privilege to be here with you today. Before we start, I want to frame something very clearly today. This is not a session about networking. This is a session about influence, and more specifically in how influence actually works in our times in 2026. Because the rules have changed. And if we don't adapt, we stay relevant only in smaller and smaller circles. My purpose for this session is for us to understand how can we as leaders become more relevant for the people around us. And again, I'm going to be sharing my screen, but I'm going to be also asking questions. I don't mind you writing the answers in the chat, but I'm going to, for the sake of time, go through the whole process, and then we're going to have times for questions. I want to ask you something, and I want to start with this. Let me start with a question, and I want you to answer this honestly, just to yourself. You don't have to say it out loud, but how many real influential relationships do you have with non-Christian leaders? I'm not talking about followers. I'm not talking about Instagram followers or connections online. I'm talking about real connections. I'm talking about people you can call, people you can have a real conversation with, people who you trust or who trust you. For most leaders, that number is lower every year, especially for Christian leaders. We tend to get together in Christian groups, and also we tend to spend time in church and also in our Bible study groups. But this question got me thinking when I was asked this I would say maybe 12 years ago, because I realized that most of my circle was only Christian circle. And then I have to just, that kind of bugs me, because if we're called to be salt and light, if we're called to be as a transformative agent in the world, we got to be in the world. We know that we are not the world, but we're here. So we have to start thinking about our relationships in a more strategic manner. So maybe you're thinking you have 20 people, 50 people, 10 people, and maybe you say you're like me, that you can count it with one hand. But if you that person, I'm going to challenge you. This webinar is going to give you some strategies in order for you to start changing that mindset. Now, what is the core problem with this? So most relationships are accidental. Most relationships are not built. Most relationships are things that happen just because of a meeting or a I don't know, maybe because you're a client of someone, but you're not. Most of our relationships are not built, but they're built by context and not intention, and they are comfortable but limiting. But this is not necessarily what we were called to do. We were called to go. We were called to make disciples. We were called to be out there. And our relationships, do they look like this? If you had to think, what was the last time that you were strategic in order for you to build a relationship with someone? When was the last time that you took time and effort in order for you to think on how can you be more influential to people? And I get it. I get it that it's sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it doesn't make it requires from us wisdom, and that's the key. One of the key areas for me is how we get that wisdom in order for us to be more influential or more relevant. So, what is the shift that needs to occur? For me, the big shift is that there has been a massive shift in how opportunities happen. Before, credentials open doors. So degrees, experiences, titles, expertise, and I get that this is very important. But now, trust is actually what opens doors. Think about your own life. When something important comes up, do you go to the most qualified person or the one you trust the most? Exactly. Competence gets you considered, but trust gets you invited. One of the key things for me that I realized when I started this journey of becoming an entrepreneur and to starting to be out there in the marketplace, one of the key things that happened is that I have to be in the right mindset. And the right mindset is that I look the marketplace as my own ministry target. So if that's my ministry target, I need to start loving the people that are in it. I cannot be intimidated by them. I cannot feel less than them. I have to be in the right mindset. What I'm trying to say is that the shift needs to occur in our mindset, in our minds. The shift needs to happen in the way we think, in the way we view relationships. And the way we view relationships is very important for us when we consider that we were called to if you want, to be salt and light. And that spiritual lens for me is very important, because if you see the scripture, God works through people. God works, and this is a spiritual reality. It's not just a strategy. God works through people, and relationships for us are not optional. It's not something that we can choose to do. If you think about Esther, she didn't just have influence, she had access. Nehemiah didn't just have a calling, he had a favor with the king. Paul didn't just preach, he built relationships that opened entire regions. So God doesn't move ideas, he moves people and through people. is that we're going to be, if you want to say, broadening the kingdom of God. So the question is not, do relationships matter? The real question is, are we building the right relationships with people? Because relationships are part of our assignment, are part of the things that God called us to do. And sometimes as Christians, we tend to think that we need to be all in one place, like Christians all in one place. And I get that that's part of our spiritual journey. But when we grow, when we get stronger spiritually, we are called to go out into the world and to be relevant to the world. And that's one of the things that I've been very sad about when I look at the church. Maybe this is only in Latin America, or maybe this happens also in Africa, that you have spiritual leaders that are very influential in the evangelical realm, but they're not influential in their marketplace role. And I'm not talking about pastors. I'm talking about businessmen. I'm talking about business leaders. I'm talking about professionals that are very influential in the church, but have very few influence on the marketplace. And I think that happens because it's hard for us to build that bridge between what we're called to do and what we ought to do when we build relationships. I understand that sometimes it can be scary. Sometimes when you participate in meetings and gatherings, you will be also exposed to the world and how the world works. And that's why I believe that it's very important for us to have a strong relationship with God before we do this. But I think that it's very important that we don't just stay home, that we don't just stay in the church. For me, it's important for us to have that intentionality to view the things we're doing and the relationship building, the strategic relationship buildings as something that God called us to do. So for me, the biggest, I want to say the biggest lesson in all this is that it's with my life that I can influence people, not my words. It's with the way I conduct business, with the way I connect with that type of world. In that world, the business world, the marketplace world, has its own rules. And when I said its own rules, is that they value things differently. In marketplace, they value results. So I have to ask myself, am I being a strategic resource for them to have results, or to get objectives done, or to build wherever they're trying to build? Or am I just trying to get my own goals with them? So I need to have that change of mindset in order for us to be very relevant in the marketplace. And I want to share with you 3 strategies in order for us to be more effective when we go into trying to build this type of relationship. And this is the core of today. I'm going to give you 3 strategies, and these are not independent ideas. They build on each other. And if you apply them consistently, your relational world will change. So the 3 strategies are called relational architecture, relational congruence, and value positioning. Let's just jump right into it. When we talk about relation strategy, this is the first strategy, the relation is architecture, sorry. Most leaders have relationships. Very few have designed them. And that's the shift. You don't need more relationships, you need the right ones. And this is key. When you view yourself as of someone that has something to give and value, you need to start building strategically what type of relationships I need to build in order for me to get to this CEO, in order for me to share the gospel to this CEO, in order for me to influence this CEO. You need to start building key relationships intentionally. This is not going to happen by accident. Maybe you'll have 2 or 3 accidental good relationships, but key relationships are built on intentionality. So the first strategy is that you need to be the architecture of your relationships. And let me ask you something. Who has God called you to influence? I just want you to think. I don't want you to answer. I want you to think. If you have a piece of paper, answer this question for me. Who has God called you to influence? And I know he has. I know that God speaks to us in a way that he says that I'm going to take you to these places. I'm going to show you these things. But this is key for me, because when you have this developed, that strategy that God wants me to reach for the president of this company, that brings us clarity. And clarity begins with this answering this question. Because the great trap is trying to connect with everyone. And when we try to connect with everyone, we end up connecting deeply with no one. Because the truth is that we cannot reach everyone, and we should not try. So again, write it down. Who has God called you to influence? Who has he given you in a prayer time the name of? You can also pause now and ask God, who are you calling me to influence? Who do you want me to reach? Who do you want me to be that bridge between you and him? Who are you trying to reach? And when you do that, you'll get clarity. And now, when you do that, when you have that clarity of who he has called you to do, you can start building what I call the 3 circles of relationships. What are the 3 circles of relationships? I want you to think about this like I don't know if that, maybe not, it's not going to translate in English, but the concentral circles, maybe not, but I'm going to show you and you'll understand. So the first circle is your core. The first is that 5 to 8 people with whom you have or want to have deep, long-term relationships. People whom you can share your goals, your struggles, your ideas. It is the circle that requires true investment. So who is in your core circle? And who you want me to be? Who do you want to be? Who is God calling you to reach and to bring to your circle? The second circle is your growth circle. So it's 15 to 20 people with whom you're actively building relationships, and there is potential, there are regular conversation, and there is intention. So the growth circle is going to give you that strategic place in order for you to bring people from your growth circle to your core circle. And then the third circle is your mission circle. So your broader sphere of influence, the people you serve, lead, interact with regularly. That's the mission circle. For me, when we develop our relational architecture, we need to think about this circle in our own lives. Who is in your core? Who do you want to be in your core circle? And again, this has to do with, okay, who you are influencing now. Who do you have that connection or that potential connection? And then you have the growth circle. And the growth circle, again, is the circle that the relationship that you already have, but you are working on them. And that you feel that these relationships are key in order for you to gain impact and relevance. Again, in the marketplace, results are valued more than any other things. So you need to start viewing yourself as someone that has to have results. So that's the mind shift, is that in order for me to reach, for example, this CEO, who do I have to become? What things I need to change in order for me to be able to talk to this person? I know that God can place me in these places, but if you think about Paul was standing before King Agrippa. When he stand before him, he stand because he was considered a philosopher. He was considered a thinker, because he was a thinker, because he had the ability to write things down. He was very educated, not only on Jewish law, but also in Greek mythology. He was very influential because he had results. I need to start thinking myself the same way. The way that I develop these relationships has to have that thing in mind. Now, the strategic question is, when you look at those circles, who's there that should not be there, and who's missing? Again, this question is not for you to answer directly. This question is for you to think. And for you to, if you want to answer it in your piece of paper, that's fine. But who is there that should not be there and who's missing? Because that's the thing. Sometimes, in order for us to have good strategic relationships, we need to start spending more time with certain people than other people. And we know that those kinds of people that kind of drain our energy, and who are they? Who are they? So that's the three circles that I want you to think and picture. Now, how do you identify the right relationship? So identifying the right relationship is not random. There are criteria to evaluate it. The first is complementarity. Who has what your mission needs? So does this person have access, perspective, resources that complement your calling? The second is alignment of your values, and not necessarily faith. And I'm going to be very emphatic with this. Most of the people in the marketplace have our own values, but not profess our own faith, but they do have our own values, because we live in a particular Western society with Western thinking. So most of them have our own values, but not profess their faith. So the alignment of values is very important. Does this person not need to share your faith to be a strategic relationship? But there must be a common ground: integrity, excellence, purpose, which for me is key. So the alignment of values is very important for us to be building the right relationships. Number three, and I love this. What is the potential of mutual influence? What are the things that I can do for them? What are the things that I can add to their lives? What are the things that I know that I can do in order for them to thrive? So that is there a potential influence, mutual influence with this person? Number four, natural proximity. Where do you already have access? So what is the path for me to get to this person? Do I know someone that knows him? And I know that now social media is very, it's very helpful for us in order for us to have these connections. I know that this person is connected with this person that I know, so I try to reach. So natural proximity is a good way to also identify the right relationships. And the last one, and I love this as well, signs of providence. Who appears repeatedly? Is there someone who keeps appearing in your life that deserves attention? Is there someone that keeps just showing up or popping up wherever you go, into a coffee shop, to a meeting, to a, I don't know, fellowship gathering, whatever? There's someone that appears repeatedly in your life? That's also another thing to look out when we build the relational architecture. And that's the way that we start building this relationship. Now I'm gonna close this first section with this question: who is missing from your ecosystem? Because when I started this journey of becoming an entrepreneur and helping businesses develop, one of the key things that I've learned from a big CEO in my country, he's a CEO of a multinational company. He said that we as leaders need to think ourselves as ecosystem builders. And that means relationship buildings. We need to be very key in order for us to have a good ecosystem around us. To build that ecosystem means that we need to take care of some relationship. We need to cut some others. We need to be very wise in order for us to build that growth ecosystem. Now, answer this question, whatever you write in your notes: who is missing from your ecosystem? Who do you think could be a good add up to your ecosystem? And I want you to think about two things: coaches and mentors. Coaches are people that you can hire in order for you to grow. Mentors are people that already walked the path that you want to walk, and they can show you how to do it. Do you have mentors in your life? Do you hire coaches in order for you to thrive in different areas of your own journey? Again, those are questions for you just to answer to yourself. Now, strategy number two, relational congruence. This second strategy has to do with how you show up. And the answer is not with your best version. with your perfect elevator pitch, or with your polished LinkedIn page. Trust is built when people see that you are the same on Mondays than you are on Sundays. When they see that you say what you say matches how you live. And this is the key part for me when we build good relationships. We need to be persons of integrity. The real tension here for many leaders is that we tend to enter spaces of influence wearing an armor, wearing a disguise, or our credentials, our achievements, our image, and that creates distance. Authenticity does the opposite. It creates closeness. And closeness is the soil where trust grows. I want to share you a quick story. I was coaching 3 years ago. I was coaching a CEO of a big startup. I would say not, it wasn't big that time, but it was getting bigger. Now it's one of the biggest startups in Latin America, in Bolivia, and also preparing to be sold to different other startups in Latin America. So it's a big deal. So 4 years ago, I started coaching this leader, the CEO, on leadership. And one of the things that he, when he was giving me a feedback after a couple of years, he said that one of the things that he liked about me, and it was the way that he saw that I was the same person, even though I never went out with the gospel proposition first. I was just trying to help him. He said that I could see how Jesus was influencing your life. This person just became a Christian 3 weeks ago. He was sitting with me and we talked about leadership again. We talked about different things, and he saw the need of asking God. And that was just a process that took us 3 years. Not because I wasn't, if you want to say, not because I wasn't intentional on sharing this with him. It's because I was building trust. I was building the trust that he was the one to say, hey, man, I know that you've spoken on how to be a good leader before, and that you need to have a good spiritual life and a fruitful spiritual life, but I want to know more about that because I have realized that I cannot do it myself. And that thing is, that's the key part, is for me to be sharing the way that I am. I am a Christian. I am a Christian leader. I work, my main calling is to help build God's kingdom, not build companies per se, but build kingdoms, God's kingdom. So if that's my mindset, I'm going to be referring on how that relationship with Jesus helps me to become a better leader. So I'm not afraid of sharing things like, hey, when I have troubles at home with my wife, I pray a lot. I spend time praying. And I would say that. And people would just, okay, that makes sense. And those little things of, if you want to say authenticity, is going to touch people's lives. But authenticity also goes the other way. When I make mistakes, I don't hide them. I would tell people, hey, I struggle with some stuff. You know that I'm a Christian, but I struggle with some stuff. I struggle with, I don't know, sometimes a bad word may come out of my mouth or a cussing will come out of my mouth. And I struggle with that, and you've seen that. But that doesn't make me less of a Christian. And that's a struggle that I am trying to, with God, overcome. But the thing is that I'm not trying to be other person that I am not at home. And this relationship congruence, it's key. So authentic presence means that trust is not built in events. Trust accumulates in the everyday. So consistency always beats intensity. And sometimes we as Christians are trying to rush ourselves into the gospel presentation. No, you will preach more with your life, with your example, than with your words. Being the same in every context. It's good for people to see you being the same person with them than when you invite them to church or when you invite them to Bible study. They have to see you being the same person. Integrity means that you are the same person in public and in private. So being in the same in every context is going to build authority. It's going to build trust. Authenticity attracts and the mask repels. One of the things that we are going to say, we are, as Christian, we are pointed out is that we are, sometimes as they call us hypocrites, because you don't do what you preach. And every time I hear that, it's like, yes, we are all hypocrites. We all make mistakes. We as Christians are not, we're not saved of not sinning or making mistakes or falling into temptation. But what we are is we're forgiven, and that we're trying our best, and that we're letting God change that in our minds, in our hearts. So that conversation, that authenticity attracts, the mask repels. So the key phrase here is that people don't trust who seems perfect. They trust who is genuine. Again, when you are trying to build relationship in the marketplace, you need to be yourself. You need to be authentic. You need to be able to connect with people and understand them and not change the way that you are when you're with them. The other thing for us to be, to build our relationship congruence is that we need to ask better questions. So I want to give you some practicals that you can use even this week. The difference between a conversation that connects and a conversation that has the transactional thing in between. What I say that you need to build strategic relationships, I'm not saying that you have to be transactional. I'm saying that you have to be connectional. And I'm going to give you some ideas. To connect means that you ask people, what is keeping you up at night right now? Connect means that you're asking people, what has been your biggest learning this year? Connection means that you are asking what excites you most about your work. So those questions that when you start building relationships show that you care about the answer, which is different than we want to do a transactional relationship. Who could you connect with me? Or who could you connect me with? Other transactional approach is that, could you talk about my project to this person? So again, this is key for us. What type of questions are we asking when we build relationships? And it is going to come to the last session, to the last part of this presentation handy. The golden rule is to listen to understand, not to respond. Now, we talked about relational architecture, being intentional on knowing who I want to target and why do I want to target. And now we have talked about how we have to be congruent. We have to be people of integrity. Now, I want you to talk the third strategy, and with this I'm going to close up. We need to position ourselves as value givers. So this is the most, I would say the most effective way for you to connect, is that you need to be a person of value to others. Let me talk about the most important mind shift has to be this. We need to go from what can I get from this relationship to what can I contribute to this person. Service is what opens doors. Service is what it'll get you there. When you are a person that adds value to others, you are going to be wanted. You are going to be needed. You are going to be asked to come into sessions in order for you to share things, because you have the service mindset. You have the value adding mindset that is going to open doors for you in the future. This is called the law of reciprocity. Value given always returns. When you give value, it'll return. Now, the key question is, what problem can I solve this week for this person that I want to reach out? I want to close up with this. We have a kingdom advantage. As leaders who work with God, you do not only bring skills into relationships, you bring something the world desperately needs, and it's increasingly rare. You bring integrity into environments where there is manipulation. You bring stability or calm into conversations filled with anxiety. You bring perspective. You bring a long-term perspective into spaces obsessed with short-term goals. You bring purpose to the conversations. So it's not only to be strategic, it's not only to be skillful when you build relationships, it's for you to be aware of what are your own advantages as a kingdom person. That is your advantage. You're going to add more value when you know that you're going with this advantage that having a relationship with God will give you. Some conclusions, and I'm going to give you a big challenge, and I'm going to be opening for questions. Strategic relationships are not optional; they are the calling. God called us to build strategic relationships. You don't have a choice. You need to be strategic in order for you to build relationships. The 3-step: clarity, authenticity, and value. Those are 3 strategies that can go a long way. It's not about speed, it's about intention. It's for you to be intentional to build them. God fulfills his purposes through people. And the question is not if you will build relationship, is with whom and for what purpose. With this, I want to close out with a little challenge for you guys. Identify one person outside of your current circle, a business, culture, or social leaders, and take one step in order for you to connect this week. With this, I want to give the time back to Percy for questions. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you so very much. It's unfortunate that we are constrained with time, so we have to pause at this point. But honestly, I've soaked so much, learned so much, and I believe everyone who is on call has also been edified. I want to acknowledge some people. We have the board chair of the Great Commission Movement of Ghana, who is on call, Madam Angela Piazza, the immediate past board chairman, Mr. Senyo Tete, the executive director of ILF, Africa and Caribbean, Mr. Stephen Eduamweni is also on call. And I think I've seen Reverend Obese, the senior pastor of Liberty Baptist Church. Quite a number of people. Mr. Stanley Yamua is also with us. Quite a number of friends. And thank you so very much. So the floor is opened for questions. You can just unmute yourself and ask Tito. For the next 10 minutes, we'll admit your questions. Yes, any question?
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, please. I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Thomas, and I have a question on the point you mentioned about potential for mutual influence. That is when you want to build a relationship with people in the marketplace. He mentioned something that in the marketplace, people are after results. If that is the case and you're looking for potential for mutual influence, how then do you guard against the temptation of a conflict of interest? Yeah, that is the question.
Yeah, that's a good question. How do you guard? I would say, how would you take care, or how would you guard yourself to the temptation of what the marketplace has as a temptation? There's a lot of it.
Something like conflict of interest.
Yes. And one of the things for me is to be authentic. The strategy number 2 is that I'm just gonna give you an example. Sometimes I was asked to share about innovation and about some of the topics in a board meeting of a big newspaper in my country. And in that board meeting, I've heard some things that I did not want to partake of that, and I had to say it. Like, I don't think that's the right. I don't think that's the right step for us in the long term, right? Like I told you, we need to be strategic in the way that we frame our answers or our recommendations or our words. We need to start, if you're thinking about results, if their mindset is results and they're trying to do something to cheat something right now in order for them to have more results right now, I always say, how is that going to affect you long term? Right? And that's the kingdom mindset. We think long term, right? We have that mindset of future, of eternity in our minds. So how is that going to affect us in the long term as a company? What are the so that's the key things for me. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be but I'm being empathetic, which means I'm not judging them. I'm not being judgeful. I'm not being someone that just goes and, hey, that's a sin, that you cannot do that. No, I'm trying to understand why are they doing that, whatever they're proposing or whatever the conflict of interest could be. But for me, it has to do with that wisdom of I care about them. I genuinely do. I care about people that God wants me to connect with. I care for them to be successful. I want for them to be successful. I want for them to meet the Lord. And if I care about them, I act. If I do, I don't judge them, and I try to help them to make the best decisions. Or I would give my answers, or I would take stands based on values, based on principles, and thinking and helping them think that that principle right now applied is going to bring it's going to bring harm to the company later, which that's what they care right now. I don't know if that answered the question, Thomas. Maybe it did.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Any other question? I've seen Dave Stacy. I don't know where you joined from. Any other question?
Percy, before they ask a question, I want to add it up to follow up the previous question. Other strategy that just God just gave it to me right now is you pray. You pray for wisdom, and then you act on what God promised us, is that He will give us wisdom in order for us not to fall into temptation. So you pray, and then you try to live the life filled with the Holy Spirit right there, right now and then.
Okay. Yes, anyone? Just unmute yourself and ask a question. So he started by saying that most relationships are accidental, not built, and that trust is the currency of the 21st century, and that we need to have a mindset, shift, that God works through people. Relationships are not optional. And in the marketplace, people place value on what results. And he shared with us 3 strategies: relational architecture. He talked about relational congruence and value positioning. Yes, any question from these issues that... And one of the things that the keys that you shared with us was to build 3 circles of relationships: the core relationship, the growth, and the mission, circles. I mean, this is wonderful. Yes, any questions?
Yes,
Okay.
hello.
Yeah.
Yes, please. My name is Williams.
Okay. Please
I
go
wanted
ahead.
to ask, yes, so in a relationship between a mentor and mentee, what does mentors actually look forward to see from their mentees, or what does mentors want from their mentees?
That's a good question. Mentors, thank you for Francis. Is it Williams, right?
Yes.
Yes, please, really.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So mentors are when I think about the relationship between a mentor and a mentee, I think about relationship with Paul and Titus, Paul and Timothy. It's a relationship with that the mentor is trying to pour out everything he has into their mentee in order for them to be successful, in order for the mentees to be successful. So I as a mentor need to be thinking about how can I open doors, how can I connect, how can I pour of the wisdom that God gave me into this person in order for them to continue the journey or their mission. So as a mentor, I'm looking for openness. I'm looking for um, insights. I'm not looking for obedience. I'm looking for competence. I'm looking for results. I'm looking uh, for an openness to listen, but also an openness to challenge and to think, to develop critical thinking. That's what I think a mentor should be looking for in their mentee. And what should a mentee look for in a mentor? In a mentor is someone that has already walked the path that I want to pursue in life. If and that's something that we don't usually do. If we want to be a good entrepreneur, we need to have entrepreneurial mentors. If we want to be a good local government official, we need to have a local government or former local government's mentor. We need to be able to see ourselves as in a way that we need them. We need to know how that works in order for us to avoid mistakes, in order for us to thrive or to get to places faster. Um, that's why we need to be very, very intentional of building mentors. I have a mentor-mentee relationship with with one of my mentors. I have three, but with one of them for over 12 years that we meet in a regular basis. We read books, we talk about things that I am interested in learning, and he has taken me to places. He has taken me with him to different meetings outside of Bolivia because again, he's committed to that relationship and to the if you want to say the purpose of what God has put in my heart. You need to be intentional to have mentors.
Yes. So it is said that business moves at the speed of trust. And one of the things you said was on how to identify the right relationships. And this one really made a strong, impact on me. That's alignment of values. Because it appears as Christians, we discriminate on the basis of this is a Christian, this is not a Christian, so I cannot, move with that person. But the subtle thing is that sometimes we might be moving with, let's say, somebody who is a Christian, but the value congruence might not be there. And so
Yes.
that was a very good, distinction that you made, that the basis for identifying the right relationship is the value congruence, alignment of values. Can you throw more light on that?
Yes, I'm going to give you a quick example. One of the big companies that I coach, it's a big company. It's a business. It's a family business, and they're not Christian. They're very Catholic, um, and I have seen more values matching between me and them than between me and other evangelical business leaders that I've coached. These people are very committed to taking care of orphans and widows in the city. So they have and that's for me, it's key. So it doesn't have to do with the profession of faith. It has to do with the results. It has to do with the fruits. How do I view someone's values at plain sight, with the things they do, with the decisions they make, how they spend their money, how they spend their profits. This person is spending their profits supporting every year for over 40 years widows and orphans in my city. This person keeps on changing cars every year, which is fine. It's not bad. But where do I see myself aligned more? That's for me, that's just something that is very important. But the other thing is that I need to be very clear on what are my values as well. What are the things that I value most? And that doesn't mean the things that I say I value most. It means the things that I do. If you want to do a quick checkup on your values, check the way that you spend time, money, and effort. Where do you put those three things are the things that you are valuing the most. If you say family, you better be spending time, effort, and money on your family. If you say God, you'll be better spending time, effort, and your relationship with God. So that's just a quick thing, Percy, to add up. I think we have a question in the chat.
Yes. So a question in the chat. Okay, let me see. Please, in the 3 circles, what is the work of trust in core? And what if the value is not there? I think it's what you have just talked about, right? Yeah. Yes.
It's just what I
because business moves at the speed of trust. So if there's no trust, there can't be a relationship. Yeah. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. So just
in my country, we have a saying, Percy, that if there's few questions or no question, either everyone understood everything or they did not understand a thing. I hope it's the former.
No, honestly, you've been a blessing to us. The honest answer is that yes, people are so, so it leaves very little, little room for what questions. So I don't think it's the other way around. Yes. So please visit the chat box, and there's a link which you can click to give us feedback on this session. We're also going to display a QR code, which you can scan, and that is going to give us feedback. In fact, the feedback is very important to us. It helps us to better, feed you in subsequent webinars. Our next webinar is going to be on the 15th of April. The 15th of April will give you, details of the topic, who is going to handle that in the coming weeks. But Tito, I want you to have the closing remarks. You have 3 minutes to do the closing remarks. Normally we get people to do, there's a hand up. Samuel, can you please ask your question before Tito? Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much for that awesome and thought-provoking delivery. I would want to find out, in case you have a mentor who is super busy, how do you as a mentee position yourself to get the best out of them? Thank you.
You gotta be very strategic in the way that you spend your time with those mentors. The same mentor that I was talking about, sometimes he has no time for me. He will spend 6 months traveling around the world, and whatever he comes here, he said that we need to get in touch, and then we meet up. But you got to be very strategic in what will you do between those 6 months. What we have done with these mentors is that he has given me a lot of assignments and books to read. I'm just going to show you right now. I have one right here, but I don't have it. It's over there. But I don't. Those times you need to be able to talk with them and say, hey, how can we make the most this relationship to be more effective for both of us? And if it's not going to work, you can change mentors. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of people that are there eager to share their experiences with others. And that's the thing that I found. All of the mentors that I've raised are mentors that I've directly connected with them and asked them to mentor me. So I haven't, none of them has just came out of a discipleship relationship or the church. None of them are part of my own church. All of them are outside. So I have to be very intentional on how you spend those times with that mentor. And if it's not working, my friend, you can change it, or you can add more mentors. There's a lot of people out there that are eager to help. They're eager and be honored to mentor you into whatever God's calling you to do.
So that leaves, Tito, that leaves you just 1 minute to sum up everything. Yes.
Well,
we are very strict on time. Yes.
That's fine. That's fine. I like it. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. And I want to close up with the same things that I said up. Things are not going to come up by itself. If you really want to be influential and relevant in the marketplace, you better do the homework. You better get up and do things. Trust God that He's going to be there with you. But God told Moses to wait until he moved for him to move. But when it was time to get into the promised land, God told Joshua to be courageous and to do things, to not fear and be courageous and go and do things, to be brave and do things. I think that's our calling for us today, is that we need to be brave, we need to be courageous, we need to trust the Lord that He's with us. And things are going to start viewing or getting better when we do our part. So my challenge for all of us